Hi, John. I'm very happy to have you now with us, albeit via Zoom. So happy to have you here.
Добрый день. I'm very happy to be here.
Great. So for everyone who are watching, that we are on the Czech Star Wars Day 2021, and we have a special guest here, Johnem Jacksonem Millerem, who is very known like a comic book writer and novelist. He wrote two major comic book series, Knights of the Old Republic, Knight Errant, three full-fledged novels. What it was, Knight Errant, Kenobi, and A New Dawn. And a lot of ebooks, whole ebooks series, Lost Rite of the Sith, and 10 shorter stories, 5 of which are canon. So is that right, John?
Oh yes, quite a lot.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. So I have a few like 4 icebreaker questions for you, if that's cool.
Okay.
When you first encountered Star Wars and what it was?
I was 9 years old. The movie came out in 1977, and I was a kid. I did not really have a chance to see it right away. In America in that time, the theaters were small. They did not have 4 or 5 or 10 rooms. They did not have many screens in a theater. We did not have what we call the multiplex with many different screens. And also it was common still then for a movie to only open in one place in a city. You would not have it at every theater. And so films would have exclusive engagements. Star Wars, where I lived in Memphis, which was in Tennessee, was only in 2 locations. The one of the ones that was closest to me happened to be the one on what was then called and what is today called Elvis Presley Boulevard, after the singer Elvis Presley, because he lived right next door to the theater. He would have the theater closed down at night to watch his own films or watch films alone. And it is believed that Star Wars would have been one of the last films he saw since he passed away in the summer of 1977. But for whatever reason, every time we tried to go see the movie, it was full. There were lines, there was no way to get in. And we kept going and kept going and kept going. And my older sister, who was helpful in, she had bought the record album. She had the posters for me. She had all of this other stuff that she had gotten. She made sure that I got in to see the movie. And so if you read the Kenobi, the introduction, it is dedicated to my sister Kathy for making sure that her kid brother got in to see the movie.
Great. And what is your favorite movie? What would you say about that?
Probably The Empire Strikes Back is my favorite, because by that time I was older, and then I had all the toys, and I had the comics, and I had the novel, and I was looking forward to it the most. I had even, with a friend of mine, designed my own sort of outer space world in these notebooks of drawings that we had. And I had been drawing my own comics, some of which I never did fan fiction. I never did, Star Wars characters, but some of my ideas were clearly not too far from Star Wars. And so, yeah, by age 12, when The Empire Strikes Back came out, there's a saying by a science fiction author that the golden age is 12. Whatever came out when you were 12 years old is what you think is the best. And so that's kind of where I was and what I thought.
Okay, thank you. And the always favorite questions is, who would you say is your favorite minor movie character? Very minor, but you is
minor movie character.
Yeah.
Oh, that's well, there are a lot of different ways to go with minor movie characters. Uncle Owen is interesting because he actually has to make a living in this world, and so even though he might not be quite that fun to be around, he is our first glimpse of what it is like to be a person living in that society and having to deal with that society, and so you actually get to encounter that. Lando, who is not minor, he gives us another side of that, showing us that he's a successful person, but that he also is having to, do things to stay in business, to meet a payroll, to keep the Empire out of his affairs. And so, anything that shows what the galaxy is like to actually live there, and not necessarily be a part of the big events, that is interesting to me.
Yeah. I understand. This is so great. Oh, and the last of these introductory questions I have, if you have ever been to the Czech Republic.
I have not. I actually have not been to Europe at all. I have a which is strange because my master's degree is in comparative politics, and specifically Soviet studies, your neighbor to the far east there, and I was actually in a Russian language immersion camp here in the United States, preparing to leave the following year to go to St. Petersburg to possibly do research. And I was never a very good speaker, but I do at least remember some things. When I was checking on the Czech language, I realized that Dobrý den and Dobrý večer are the same in Russian and English, or not same in Russian and Czech. They're close at least, but other things are far different. But I was on the way back to my graduate school to finish the paperwork to go, and that was when the Soviet Union collapsed. They had the coup, and Gorbachev got removed and temporarily. And by the time that was over, everything that I was planning on studying vanished. It was all gone. But and so I decided, well, there's really nothing I can do anymore. But I will say that language camp at Indiana University was an interesting way to spend the summer. It was a lot of fun because it was not just students who were taking Russian, but also my best friend was taking Czech, and there were others taking other languages, Polish, Eastern European languages, and so it was an interesting mix that summer.
Okay. So what are you currently working on now, if that's not classified?
What we have just announced is I have a new hardcover. It is actually my first new novel hardcover that is in hardcover since A New Dawn. It is for the Star Trek TV show Picard, and it is called Rogue Elements, and this is about It's about the character that flies the starship La Serena, which is the freighter ship that we see in the TV series, Cristobal Rios, and as played by Santiago Cabrera. I'm getting a lot of different languages. One of the fun things with Star Wars or Star Trek, as opposed to Star Wars, is I get to use real Earth languages. So there's a lot of French in there, and also certainly a lot of Spanish that I had to have looked up. And of course, another time I had to look up Klingon to make sure that the Klingon words were correct. So there's a lot of language in what I do. But yes, that book is set several years before the TV series. So it covers several years of the main character's life and how he got the spaceship and everything. So you might say it is the equivalent of, say, the Solo movie with regard to Star Wars, where you saw, you saw the Millennium Falcon and Han Solo. You see that here in this book, and so that book comes out on July 7th, and from Simon & Schuster, and where that sells overseas, I'm not sure. I know we have German editions that come out a few months later. I assume that they have Czech and other editions of these things, but I just don't know. This is why I need to travel more to find out what books are out there.
Okay. So do you like writing prose, novels or short stories, or scripts for comic books? I can imagine both of them has both pros and cons.
Yes, this is true. The challenge with the novel is that you have to describe everything, and you do not have the artists to rely upon to make things look better than you imagined. However, this also helps you avoid the pitfall sometimes of having the thing that is drawn on the page not look like what you imagined. This is always a challenge, especially in comics. Again, this is another international matter. The artists are often overseas. The artists are often in a different country, and things have to be translated. This was the case with the last several stories I did for Dark Horse for Star Wars. We had artists in Italy and other places, and then a challenge in the most recent comic series I did. I did a series for Battlestar Galactica for their 40th anniversary, and my artist there, Daniel HDR, he was in Brazil. So we've added yet another language here, Portuguese, into all of this. And these always require specific challenges because it's not always clear that everyone has access to the same things. In the case of Battlestar Galactica, they did not get the TV series in Brazil. And so I had to be very careful to send the artist multiple images. I was probably sending more images. I might as well have just sent the videos of the show because it was something where the fans want you to get it right, and so now this is a good thing as well, though, about comics, is that there are several occasions where you can go back and look at things and see if they look correctly, and if they don't, you can remove them. And this happens regardless of language as well. Often we would have in Knights of the Old Republic, for example, often we would have a spaceship in a big battle scene appear that did not belong in the Old Republic. It was not something that should have been in the time frame. It should have been in the Clone Wars. And if we had time, I would tell them to erase that ship or do something to cover it up, so that we did not confuse people. But you know, it is difficult when the world is that big of Star Wars things. When you know the timeline, the history is so great. It is sometimes difficult to make sure that you have the right one, the right version of things. With Battlestar Galactica, we had a separate challenge, which was that there are 2 different Battlestar Galactica series. And so frequently, if you were to look on the internet to see what a ship looked like, you get the wrong ship because they all have the same name. And so that was another thing that we had to be careful with. But this is common to doing tie-in comics, as we call them, common to doing licensed comics. And it is just one of the things that we try to prepare for.
Yeah, nice. So what is the process of cooperation when making a comic book with the artist? They like you set the general scene of how those panels should like, or how it's going to work.
Yeah, yes. What will happen is I will be asked to write a story, and so I will usually provide a 1-page or very brief suggestion, a plot of what I want to do. Then they will ask me to do a full plot after it has been approved by the licensor, whoever it happens to be, whether it's Star Wars or the video game company in the case of Halo and Mass Effect, or you know, something else I've done. I take that plot, and it's a longer plot. And once that is approved, I begin to write a script. And the script is a page-by-page breakdown, like a movie, saying what happens in panel 1, what happens in panel 2, what happens in panel 3. And it says the dialogue, and it names the characters, and it says the details of what things should look like. And in the case of situations like I just mentioned, where there might be confusion, I will at that point usually include links to the internet to say it is this ship, it is that character, it is this space alien, it is this creature, and then it is sent to the artist. And so by that point, I have already broken it down into pages and into my suggestion for how the panel should go. The artist will use his discretion in terms of, you know, whether the panel should be shaped one way or another way, or you know, how to make them appear. But yeah, the general process is the artist will draw a pencil version, then it will be handed to another artist to do an inked version. Sometimes the penciler and the inker are the same person. At that point, it splits off 2 directions. One copy of it goes to the person who will put the letters on the page, the word balloons. The editor says where the word balloon should go. And so that person is putting on the text. And the other person who gets the book is the colorist. Sometimes the colorist is the same person as the inker. It just depends on how they want to do it. But the colorist adds all of the color to the scenes, you know, adds shading, will complete the way that pages look. And then they merge it all together. And depending on the publisher and depending on the studio we're working with, and depending on how much time we have, I will get the book back at several points in that time in order to be able to say, that is the wrong ship. This person is talking when it should be that one. This word balloon needs to go to this person. Or more likely, because the characters do not appear left to right when they are speaking left to right, I will say, all right, I will rewrite this dialogue so that you do not have to have the word balloon arrows crossing one another, because that is bad. So, so all of these things we do, and then it goes to the publisher, and frequently the publisher is in Canada or China. So this is a full international effort.
Yeah, that is. I can imagine fully what it looks like. A great amount of work on every single issue. So you are most known in the Czech Republic as a novelist, since 2 of your 3 novels got translated and published in here. The first was Kenobi, and the second published was New Dawn.
How do you say that?
Nový úsvit.
Nový úsvit.
Nový úsvit, ano.
Oh.
Yes. So yeah, these are the two books published. But we the first experience of you in the Czech Republic was anything else? Care to guess what that was?
I would imagine that Iron Man probably appeared in.
No, from Star Wars. From
Star Wars. Okay, yes. Well, probably I would have guessed possibly the Knights of the Old Republic comics might have been reprinted. I'm not sure though.
I would so much wanted to have that, but it's not the case. It was your very first story. Star Wars.
Oh, that was the Star Wars Empire. So you have the very first one. So that's excellent. Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, it was published here in 2013.
Wow, that's only 8 years after it came out.
Yeah. But
9 years.
We have this magazine which was like which feature the best Star Wars comics. So it was not in the in the time of the first publishing in original. So it is it was not chronologically as it was published. So yeah, this what was your and this is like my connection to questions. What was the process that you first came to Star Wars comics in this comic book?
I wrote for a publishing company that did magazines about comics. So I was the editor of a magazine called Comics Retailer, also a magazine called Comics Buyer's Guide, and I also wrote books. I wrote price guides for comics. I still do some of that research on a website of mine called Comicron, COMICHRON.com. That people can look at. But I had started in 2003 to write comics for Marvel. So I wrote Crimson Dynamo about the Russian version of Iron Man, and finally got use out of all of the studies that I had done. And I then got to write Iron Man for a year. And that led to the summer of 2004, I suppose it was. Yes, I happened to be in the state of Oregon for a family reunion, and I decided to go visit Dark Horse for the day, and because I knew people from there from my work, and I toured the place. And at the very end, I asked if there was a Star Wars editor about, and indeed, Randy Stradley was there, and I told him I had done Iron Man, and I happened to have a stack of comics I had done. And he said that they were looking for fill-in artists or fill-in writers to do issues, single issue stories for Star Wars Empire was the name of the comic book at the time. I submitted several different ideas, and he accepted one, which became that Darth Vader story that you see there. But a funny thing is that I saved those ideas, and a couple of years ago, I guess it's now 2018, so it's I suppose 3 years ago, when IDW was starting to do these Star Wars adventure comics, I proposed one of the ideas that we did not use, and that became the story that is in the Star Wars Adventures Annual for that year. That was my first Luke and Leia and the droids story. I had to wait. I had to wait more than a decade to get to write those characters, because in the meantime I was doing all these other parts of the timeline. So that is how it began, and that also sort of connects us to the recent past.
Nice. Now we are getting to Knights of the Old Republic. What was the influences? Probably the games, probably. But did you play the games? Both of them?
I played the game after they hired me to write the comic book. This is something that came up in a Twitter thread just yesterday. People were discussing how familiar people were with Revan, and I was able to say that I had never actually played the game when I was hired to do the books, but I immediately went out and played the game, and I looked at my nephews had beaten the game, so I was able to look at some of their playthrough, and also I was able to use research and check the video scenes that people had put online. There were not many. It was fairly early for places like YouTube. I don't even remember if it was YouTube at that point, but it was fairly early. But I got as much as I needed because Dark Horse, the idea was never to do a story about the game. It was basically to use the name and use sort of that time frame, but I was free to put it anywhere on either side of the games. And so I chose to put it about 7 years beforehand so that I could use the games as a teaser, as a tease. People are during the Clone Wars, people are aware while watching the Clone Wars, they already know the bad thing that's going to happen in the Star Wars movies. But in this case, 7 years before the Knights of the Old Republic games, well, some of the fans would be familiar with what bad things are going to happen in between the time before the games. And what I wanted to do was play with their knowledge or their lack of knowledge. The masters that Zane Carrick they have visions of the future, and they have visions of bad things happening, but they have incomplete visions. They do not show everything. They are not fully correct, and they are misled. And so that was something that over the course of the first 3 years of that series, I was constantly toying with, well, will this thing from the game turn out to be this thing? Will this character from the game turn out to be this person? And as it turned out, the masters were wrong about Zane Carrick and his role as being somebody who was going to do terrible things. And if anybody had really closely read the story, they would have realized that too, because he was just too nice a guy.
Yeah,
but I think that we succeeded with that, and certainly it is beloved. It has been in the United States. It has been reprinted in 3 different editions, 2 by Dark Horse, 1 by Marvel, and then in July, Marvel is doing a massive edition, larger than the original size, with 1,344 pages. Every page I did for Knights of the Old Republic, and I think that people will be looking forward to that.
Yeah. I certainly I am, because I love this series to the death. So yeah, this is, I am very much looking forward to it personally. So as I look at the whole series, that I can notice that the main things that get referenced and like a background for are for the first game, and there are fewer things, if anything, for the second game. Was there any plan to I know that there are some musings of Master Lucian at the end.
The second game had just come out. It was not long out, and I did not have that game at the time. It was not available for my system, but again, I was able to watch some video from it from my sister's children who had the games. One of the issues with it is that if Knights of the Old Republic, the first game, was 7 years after my time frame, it was even farther after that. So it was much longer. And so I wanted to be careful about trying to connect too much to it. I did use some names, as you say, and certainly there were people who noted the resemblance between the name Krinda and the name Kreia. Again, a lot of that is just sort of my handiwork, my trying to put red herrings or false leads out there. And again, I do admire the second game. Chris Avallone, who was one of the designers of it, actually helped get me a video game job that was the final thing that allowed me to, in 2007, quit my day job with the magazine company and begin writing full time, which I've been doing ever since. So there is that connection to it. But yeah, I mean, the influences of the games in particular, probably the wider influence is in what we did not do, because we were avoiding it, because we did not want to spoil what might happen in anything that would happen in a third game if they did it, or what did happen, which was the Revan novel. I was willing to show some of Revan's past, but I was not going to go too deeply into it. I was also, we have the whole subplot where Roland Dyer, the Mandalorian, is seeking the answers about why the Mandalorian War started, and why Mandalore the Ultimate was acting the way that he was. And again, I had sort of been told that the answer to that question cannot be one that he will find. He must not solve that mystery. And so, unfortunately, this leaves his storyline probably the least satisfactorily resolved as far as I'm concerned. I would have liked to have given him an additional story at some point where, you know, we get to say something about either he finds the truth out or he decides that he's you know, going to stop, because as it is, you know, his search is just continuing, and we don't know whatever happened to him.
Yeah, nice. Okay, then we can move to Kenobi, which I understand was very early of your Star Wars stories, but didn't get into
Yeah. Didn't come out until later. Yes. Kenobi was originally going to be a graphic novel called Ben, for the Dark Horse line, and I originally wrote the proposal. Yes, originally wrote the proposal for the graphic novel in 2006, and it has some of the same characters, some of the same things happening in it in general, but it would change over the course of 3 different versions that I wrote, until finally we got to the point where in 2007, my plot was so long, there was no way it was going to fit into a comic book. And they needed me to do the Indiana Jones movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. They needed me to write that adaptation. And I just had many other things to do. And it also, at the time, it looked as though Lucasfilm might do a Star Wars TV series set in that period. So I put the idea on the shelf and did not come back to it until this was 2012. We were looking for a novel for me to do after Knight Errant, which had been both the comic series and the novel I had done, and we decided that it was time to do Kenobi, and so I wrote that over the summer, or rather over the winter of 2012, 2013, and it came out in August of 2013, and became a New York Times bestseller, and it is probably still the book I'm best known for among novel readers.
Yeah, it was so good. I love it. It's what is the thing I love it about it especially is that basically almost like the old movie, everything you always wanted to know about Tatooine, but were afraid to ask.
Yes.
Because it has so much background about Tatooine. It's every information from every RPG supplement book, and how did you prepare for that? That must be so much research.
It was, and I kept discovering things. I kept discovering that there were books out there that had more details. So, you know, I found out that Ryder Wyndham had done The Life and Times of Obi-Wan Kenobi in a children's book. And so I grabbed a copy of that, and I made sure that my details meshed with that, such that you could actually see which page my novel fits into in that biography. It fits in between 2 sentences. You know, I would discover other things, and I would discover some things that contradicted. There was a role-playing book map of Tatooine that did not match the map in the DK Complete Locations book that I was using. And I decided I was going to go with the Complete Locations book because it was more recent and it was more detailed. But, you know, there are a lot of deep dives in there. I mean, there are scenes set in Mos Eisley, and in particular in Jabba's townhouse. the whole idea of Jabba's townhouse comes from a West End galaxy guide for Mos Eisley, and you know, it's even to the point where the rooms you could follow this events of the story from room to room in the map, and it connects. The author is under no obligation to mind these things. The author is under no obligation to even look at a map. But as people saw with Lost Tribe of the Sith, which I had done immediately before that, I very much cared about where things were. And so there were maps that we published in Lost Tribe of the Sith. There was a map for the universe of Knight Errant that we put on StarWars.com, and is still there. I had somebody ask me yesterday, what order do I read those books in, and is there anything to help me? And I said, well, it still happens to be on StarWars.com. Here's where you can find the link. And all of this stuff, it can be found on my website, farawaypress.com.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it was as you talked about Jabba's townhouse. That I was especially proud of or fond of Mosef Binit, who is Jabba the Hutt single T himself.
Yes, and trying to explain that thing. He was a character who had first appeared in the first Star Wars comics I got in 1977. He was what they thought Jabba the Hutt would look like. He was just sort of a walking, tall monkey guy. And we used to call him Monkey Jabba once we realized that was not the real Jabba. Pablo Hidalgo had come up with the idea that, well, maybe he was just Jabba's lawyer, and maybe he just used his name on certain occasions. And I took that and I went with it. And the great delight is that I was able to get that character back into canon in the book that I wrote. We did a book called Canto Bight for episode 8. And so that character appears there again. He's no longer handling Jabba's affairs, but he is still a lawyer.
Yeah, nice.
And an accountant, yes.
Yeah. I understand that there were a lot of fans who would like your story to be a basis for Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series, as it doesn't contradict anything in the new canon as well. But I guess this is so much. This is a question we got from our audience. But I would like to think, what would you say about
it? These things, I live in a place called Wisconsin, which is about as far away as you can get from New York City and Hollywood as you can and still be on this continent. So I am not usually tuned into a lot of the decisions and the discussions of these things. Sometimes they happen. They used some of my Iron Man characters in movies, and in fact, one of the villains in Ant-Man and the Wasp comes from my Iron Man comics. The Sonny Birch character that Walton Goggins plays, and when that happened, they flew my wife and I and. Also the artist from Argentina, yet another country, up to Hollywood, and we saw the premiere of the film with everybody else, and they put our names at the end of the film. So that was really fun. All of these things, it's exciting if you see them, but the work is always. When we write these things, we assume that that's going to be the last thing we'll do. With that story, and so we try to make them complete, and try to make them, say what we intended to say on the page at that time. So, yes, if there is another life to these things, that would be fun. But we shall see.
Yeah, definitely. So the last topic of this little interview is A New Dawn, which would be the first novel in the new canon. The overarching thought is to forget the old ways for the new canon. So what was the background of hiring you, specifically you, for this job, and the cooperation with Lucasfilm Story Group at the very early time of the new canon?
They were looking for a novel for me to do after Kenobi. They were also looking to do a book about heroes as opposed to villains, because in that stretch you had a couple of Darth Vader books, an Emperor book. There were a lot of darker books, and this happened to be discussions at New York Comic-Con in 2013. So we had that was where they were doing the first slideshow for the Rebels TV series, and they wanted to actually have me interact with the creators of the TV series, with Dave Filoni and Greg Weisman and Simon Kinberg. They wanted them to actually, look at my plot, suggest, some ideas for the plot. And then I later had a conference call with Dave. And the idea in all of this was to, tell a story. I once again said I want to tell a much earlier story so that I do not interfere with what's going on in the TV series. So they gave me the meeting between Kanan and Hera. And nobody else appears in it, and the ghost ship does not appear until the very last instant. But I got to tell the kind of story I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was a story which was the flip side of the reverse version of Kenobi, because Obi-Wan Kenobi has a knowledge of what happened to the galaxy. He knows what the Emperor did. He knows about the Sith. He knows about Order 66. And he also knows his mission. He knows he is going to protect Luke Skywalker. Kanan had none of that. Kanan was in the dark. He was aimless. It was all a mystery to him. It is not until Hera comes along that he is able to see a different way. And also, this book allowed me to do kind of what I wanted to do again, what I did with what I did with Kenobi, show what it was like to live in a world that was transforming because of new political leadership, and that was definitely a case where my Soviet studies and my Russian history came into place. How quickly in Russia, and even more quickly in Eastern Europe, the world changed, from one day to the next because of who was in charge. And I wanted to show, how the Emperor had taken some features of the Republic and turned them to his ends. But how there were also some things which he could not change. There were some features of society that would remain, and the rebellion was going to have to use those things. The rebellion was going to have to draw upon those things. Kanan is working for people who are working for the Emperor. But at the same time, he is still more or less an independent. He is still flying on his own. He's still making his own decisions. And it is with that as an asset that he has the mobility that he needs to do what he needs to do. It is not yet a totalitarian state as it would be later. But there are a lot of elements in there that I really thought through. There's a character who does surveillance for the Empire, who spies on people for the Empire, Zeluna. And we realize that her job in the Republic was more or less the same thing, except she was doing that spying for security firms and corporations and the tracking that goes on the internet. All of these things were co-opted by the emperor and twisted. And, we get to see her reacting to that, and that's her rebelling against that. And I wanted to show that that was going to be the case with a lot of people. So yes, that came out, and it was with the story group. Only when I was about 2/3 of the way through the book did they say, "Oh, we're going to make this the first of the new canon novels, and we're going to fly you and Timothy Zahn to California, and you'll do a video about it, and we will also select a name for the book that makes it sound more like it's going to be a beginning." And so my original thought had been to call it Loose Cannons, and then we thought, well, you're using canon in there is probably not a good idea. And also it just didn't fit as well anymore. And my backup idea was actually the title of the Star Trek novel I just wrote, which is Rogue Elements. That was the backup title. And they said instead, well, let's call it A New Beginning or something like that. And we went with A New Dawn. And of course, the funny thing about A New Dawn is the planet that they spend most of their time on is a planet which is locked to its sun, so that if it ever actually were to have a dawn, everybody would burn. So there's not actually a sunrise in A New Dawn until we get to the very end of the story, when they're on a completely different planet with the ghost. Yeah. So that's how that worked. But yes, and then everything about canon and legends and all of that followed. Kenobi was released as a paperback with the Legends logo over it. The first actual Legends publication of any kind was the 8th printing of Lost Tribe of the Sith. The first 7 printings don't say Legends, the 8th one and onward do. But Kenobi, it's funny, I actually have a copy of the cover of the paperback, which does not have the banner on it because they changed the plans halfway through. I don't have a physical copy of it, but I have a digital copy of it. And they said, okay, we're going to have to change that cover because we have the new plan.
Nice. This is so good. And one thing about this novel is that there is a certain character who is one of the most important character in the whole books / comics / games
yes,
like a series, and that is Ray Sloan,
yes,
who did her journey from acting captain to Grand Admiral. So this is pretty good. Did you invent her? Or?
And we actually filled in the blanks before that. So I have short stories where she's a cadet, and that we published. So. Oh yeah, again, this is part of that idea where the emperor is corrupting institutions that have strong roots. The Republic Navy had existed for centuries, and it occurred to me that he would want to transform the Republic Navy at every level to turn it into the Imperial Navy. It also occurred to me that in order for his empire to work, there had to be a number of people who were not necessarily evil, but who were believers in parts of the system, or believers in the parts of the system that they understood and recognized. So Ray Sloan is part of the first generation of academy graduates that come of age in the empire, and to a degree, you see that in some some naval services where you start in the academy under one regime and then you end under the next. And in her case, she was not attached to the Republic and its ways, and the Republic had its faults, and that she was aware of, that she had grown up seeing. And so she is trying to make her way in this society and in this job. And it's a difficult one. And the most recent Star Wars thing I have written is for a book called Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back for a Certain Point of View. And it tells where Rey Sloane was during The Empire Strikes Back. And it shows her encountering Vader at a time when no one really survived encountering Vader if they were in the Navy. And it shows how she survived, how she stayed alive. And I'm really happy with that. It also kind of bookends, that previous Darth Vader comic story I wrote 15 years ago, because you had that story in the comic book that you showed, in the magazine you showed. That story is about Darth Vader threatening an Imperial captain, but the captain stands by his decisions and actually survives. So in a way, these are kind of interesting bookends to all of that work in between.
Yeah, it's nice. I guess you know that she appeared in Star Wars Squadrons game. Were you delighted when you saw her?
Oh, yes.
Or did you play the game?
I have not played that one. I am not very good at games where you have to aim and shoot things. I'm much more likely to play Civilization or something like that. Or actually, well, the one I have now, I'm playing Euro Truck Simulator and American Truck Simulator. So I'm driving around Europe. So I'm learning what the street signs look like, even if I haven't come to visit. Which is a good pandemic game to have, because you still feel like you're traveling. Yes. But yes, it is. It has been. I seeing these things appear, and there have been action figures in some cases from Knights of the Old Republic. There have been miniatures from Knights of the Old Republic. Seeing these pop up is a delight, and then seeing these overseas editions of the books. One of my shelves back here is just Kenobi's. I don't have a Czech copy of Kenobi, but I have several from all around the continent, and I hope to get everything one day. But it may not be possible to get everything one day. This is one of the problems with the work, is just that you do your work for an American publisher, whether it's Star Wars or Star Trek or something, and then the studio then resells the book and places it in other places, and sometimes you'll see those copies and sometimes you won't. But either way, I'm really happy to have people reading these books and continuing to interact with people in all parts of the globe.
Thank you. We are also very happy to have it here, and a very nice read. So we are nearing the end, and we have some supplemental questions from our viewers. Some very short questions. If you could choose to write any era or any character of Star Wars, what would you like to most write about?
Oh, that's a challenge. I have not yet written a Lando story yet. That would be fun. Obviously, I have not written Luke in any depth beyond that one story. And of course, it would always be fun to do Kenobi again.
Yeah, nice. So you already answered the most of that. But do you watch, read, or play the new Star Wars content generally? Do you have something favorite from the most recent?
I have not really had time to catch up with the streaming series. It is an unfortunate effect of my work that I tend to do my best work at night. So that's when it's best to do streaming. So the good news is all this stuff piles up and I'll be able to binge it at once.
Yeah, nice. We have this question that a lot of people would like to canonize Old Republic era with full Darth Revan and so on. Although it can be really done. It's as a lot of things are already laid out differently that it would in Legends. So if you would be interested to participate in a process to rewrite those stories to be part of the new canon, if you be
anything's possible. Certainly, there are ways to retell the story of Zane Carrick without actually even having to be in the Old Republic. The situation he is in is a situation that could have happened in the Clone Wars or some other time. And of course, all of those things, they still are being drawn upon by the Old Republic video game, which has not abandoned that part of the timeline.
Okay, thank you. And are you looking forward to any Star Wars content, for example, Disney Plus series or the Rogue Squadron movie or something?
I'm looking forward to getting into any movies again at all. The last movie I saw in a theater was Episode 9. That was December. 2 months before the world closed. So I certainly am looking forward to seeing those in any other films.
Yeah, as we all do. So yeah, thanks John. That was a great interview. I enjoyed it so much, and I hope even our viewers did. So thank you, big thank you for you to make time for us, and
thanks. People can find me on my website with notes on all of my books is farawaypress.com. I am on Twitter at JJMFaraway, and then I am on then I'm on Facebook as Johnem Jacksonem Millerem. As noted, the Knights of the Old Republic Giant Edition that comes out July 7th in the United States. It also could probably be obtained from dealers in Europe through Diamond's London office, Diamond UK. Again, I really do appreciate all the support and all the interest from folks in the Czech Republic. And I'm going to try to say this without butchering it. Nech te provází síla. Is that it?
This is very good. Yeah. Okay.
May the force be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and all the viewers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.